What is hashing? Hashing is the reason why sets and dictionaries are so fast when we're searching for an item in them, no matter how big that set or dictionary is, as opposed to lists. Hashing is the reason. So let's talk about hashing here. Hashing is a way of translating arbitrary data, like strings or large numbers, into a smaller set space that makes it easier to use that data and find it in memory. Okay. So in other words, hashing takes in anything, any input, a string, an integer, a float, whatever it is, and generates a number based on it. And there's a couple of things that are important to know about this. First of all, it doesn't matter what input, as long as you give that same input, you're always going to get that same result. It's going to generate the same number. Every time you put in that input, it will generate the same result. Once we get that result, we can use the generated number to tell the computer where to store our piece of information in the computer's memory. So again, this is important. It doesn't matter at what point you enter in that input that you're looking for, you're going to get back the same number. And using that number as an address, as it were, to where to go into memory to find that thing, you can find that item very quickly. You can go directly there and retrieve the value that you're looking for. The number is generated by a function that's called a hash function. And basically, it is a function that, given an input, a value of any sort, it's going to return a number, another value. And that value, sometimes called a hash sum, is going to tell us exactly where that input or that value that we're looking for is stored in memory. And so if we're looking for an input, it will run it through the hash function. If it's there at that spot in memory, then that input that we're looking for, that value we're looking for, is in the dictionary. If the value that we're looking for is not at the address in memory, then we know it's not in the dictionary. It's very quick at finding the thing that we're looking for. It goes directly to that spot in memory. And the hashing function has no other purpose than to create these numbers that help us find the item in memory. And if you look at the function's input and output, if you really looked into the detail of a hash function, it probably won't make any sense, which is actually where the name hash comes from, because this function makes hash of its inputs. It doesn't really make sense, but it works to help us find items very fast. So let's think about the CU student ID number. It has 9 possible digits in it. That gives us 1 billion possible combinations. That's a lot of students. If we're going to put that in a list, the way list works, we're going to have to kind of reserve those 1 billion places in memory in a consecutive place and save that space for when we might need it. But 1 billion is a lot. Probably at any given time, even by keeping in students that have been here for previous years, we're probably not going to use any more than like 1% of that list. So it's a lot of wasted space if we put this in a list. If we use a dictionary, that allows us to make better use of the space in the computer's memory. We can store thousands of students without requiring a massive waste of space for all of those 1 billion possibilities. And we can use the hash function for every new number that we create to store that number different places in memory and find them in that place at memory at any point that we need. And so it makes it very fast to find things that are held in sets and dictionaries.